relationships only with his wife, and that also under regulation is called a brahmachari. Such a restrained householder, brahmachari, may be accepted in the bhakti school, but the jnana and dhyana schools do not admit even householder brahmacharis. They require complete abstinence without compromise. In the bhakti school, a householder brahmachari is allowed controlled sex life because the cult of bhakti yoga is so powerful that one automatically loses sexual attraction being engaged in the superior service of the Lord. In the Bhagavad Gita is said, Vishaya vinivatatnante narashasya dina rasha varjam rasopi asya param jisvat nisvatate. Whereas others are forced to restrain themselves from sense gratification, a devotee of the Lord automatically refrains because of a superior taste. Other than the devotee, no one has any information of that superior taste. Vigatapi cannot be fearless unless one is fully in Krishna consciousness. A conditioned soul is fearful due to his perverted memory, his forgetfulness of his eternal relationship with Krishna. The Bhagavatam says, Vayam divit yat vinavishtasya Shvayad ishad apadasya viparyayo shamiti. Krishna consciousness is the only basis for fearlessness. Therefore, perfect practice is possible for a person who is Krishna conscious. And since the ultimate goal of yoga practice is to see the Lord within, a Krishna conscious person is already the best of all yogis. The principles of the yoga system mentioned herein are different from those on the popular so-called yogi societies. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Rama, Hare Hare Krishna, Translation once again. One should hold one's body, neck, and head erect in a straight line and stare steadily at the tip of the nose. Thus, with an unagitated, subdued mind, devoid of fear, completely free from sex life, one should meditate upon me with the heart and make me the ultimate goal of life. Funny, I have not seen a single yoga studio that does this. It's all stretches. Now, any place that you go to pay, to teach you yoga, they don't teach this. That's the thing in this age of Kali. Everything's so degraded. We can't even perform the proper yoga anymore. Only bhakti yoga is recommended in this age. All these other forms of yoga, they're too difficult for the modern man to do. Much too difficult. Plus, we don't have, our mind is so short in intelligence and concentration, and our lifespan's so short now. We don't have time to get this yoga practice perfected. That's why bhakti yoga is needed so much. All these other forms of yogis are meant to control the senses. Meant to bring control under the senses to where we're not indulging in the senses. Bhakti yoga is a little bit different. We're employing the senses in Krishna service. When we look at things, when we look at the deities, we're employing our sense of sight in Krishna service. When we see the spiritual master, we're employing the sense of sight in Krishna service. When we read the Srimad Bhagavatam, the Bhagavad Gita, and all these sacred texts, We're employing the sense of sight in Krishna service. When we hear the kirtan, when we hear the instruments, we're employing this sense of hearing in Krishna service, become spiritualized. When we smell the incense being offered to Krishna, when we smell the flowers being offered to Krishna, when we smell the prasadam that's been offered to Krishna, we are employing our sense of smell in service to Krishna. When we taste the prasadam, when we taste the water that's been offered to Krishna, we engage our sense of taste in the service of Krishna. And when we touch the paraphernalia that's been offered to Krishna, the flower that's been offered to Krishna, the prasadam that's been offered to Krishna, we are engaging our sense of touch in the service to Krishna. So in many ways, we are not restraining our senses. We're restraining our material senses. Our senses are, in Bhakti Yoga, we are no longer engaging our material senses for material pleasure. We're engaging our spiritual senses for the pleasure of Krishna. That's the big difference between these yogas. You can try the other yoga systems, try to restrain the senses, but Bhakti Yoga is the best form of yoga because we can naturally give up our material senses by engaging our spiritual senses in service to Krishna. Said the other yogas are very, very hard to do in this age of Kali. Can you imagine just sitting in one place, focusing on the tip of your nose with half closed eyes all day long, just trying to think of the Paramatma within, 18 to 20 hours a day each day, taking a little break for, just to sustain oneself by eating and bathing. We can't do that these days. Our mind is too uncontrolled, out of control. Bhakti Yoga is this natural process that brings our mind under control, brings our senses under control. It's a wonderful system. Move on to text 15. Thus, practicing control of the body, mind, and activities, the mystic transcendentalist attains to the kingdom of God, or the abode of Krishna, by sensation of material existence. Purport. The ultimate goal in practicing yoga is now clearly explained. Yoga practice is not meant for attaining any kind of material facility. It is to enable the sensation of all material existence. One who seeks an improvement in health or aspires after material perfection is no yogi, according to the Bhagavad Gita. Nor does sensation of material existence entail one's entering into the void, which is only a myth. There is no void anywhere within the creation of the Lord. Rather, the cessation of material existence enables one to enter into the spiritual sky, the abode of the Lord. The abode of the Lord is also clearly described in the Bhagavad Gita as that place where there is no need of sun, moon, nor electricity. All the planets in the spiritual kingdom are self-illuminated like the sun in the material sky. The kingdom of God is everywhere, but the spiritual sky and the planets thereof are called Param Dhamma, or superior abodes. consummate yogi who is perfect in understanding Lord Krishna, as is clearly stated herein, mat chitta mat para mat satanam. By the Lord himself, he can attain real peace and ultimately reach his supreme abode. The Krishna Loka known as Goloka, Vrindavan. In the Brahma Samhita, it is clearly stated, Goloka eva nivasiti akilatma bhuta, that the Lord, although residing always in his abode called Goloka, is the all-pervading Brahman and the localized Paramatma as well by the dint of his superior spiritual energies. No one can reach the spiritual sky or enter into the internal abode by Kunta Goloka Vrindavan of the Lord without proper understanding. Pornitai ki jai. Without the proper understanding of Krishna and his planetary expansion, Vishnu. Therefore, a person working in Krishna consciousness is the perfect yogi because his mind is always absorbed in Krishna's activities. Save mana Krishna paravinatayo. In the Vedas, also we learn Tamivam vidit vitrityam iti. One can overcome the path of birth and death only by understanding the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. In other words, perfection of the yoga system is the attainment of freedom from material existence and not some magical jugglery or gymnastic feats to befool innocent people. Oh, Maharaj has a comment? Nice. 1 second, Maharaj.
Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita specifically that Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, Yogi Nama Pisarvesham Bhagate Nantaratmana Shradhavam Bhagate Yomam Samayuktutamo Mataha. Out of all yogis, he was always engaged in my devotional service, mind intent on me. He's most intimately united with me in yoga and is the highest of all. So there are different types of yoga, but really they're all just part of Bhakti Yoga, and Bhakti Yoga being the whole of Bhakti Yoga. Because the whole point of practicing yoga is to love God, is to have a loving relationship with the Lord. That's why we're trying to have all these personal relationships in this world, because we know intrinsically that we want to have a personal relationship. And the supreme personal relationship is with Krishna. Krishna means all attractive. Naturally, all the yogis, we can see whether, if it's a yogi who's practicing Ashtanga Yoga, meditation, he also wants to come to Krishna. There's a verse in the Vedas that Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave great stress to. It's called the Atmarama verse. Amaramastu munayo yagranta apirukume tadva bhaktim. Atmaramastu munayo yagranta apirukume kavantyo itukim bhaktim itam bhuta gunahari. So this, in essence, this verse means that everyone is ultimately looking to become self-realized, self-satisfied. And that self-satisfaction self-realization comes when one connects with Krishna. Until then, there's still something missing in the relationship. If one doesn't have a personal relationship with the Supreme Lord, that means it has an impersonal or localized relationship. That's at the best. In the material world, the living entities don't really have much of a direct relationship at all because they're not aware of the Lord's different energies. Some people do have this idea, a kind of a pantheistic view, that nature is God interacting with them. But nature is not everything that God is. Certainly some of the energies of nature are coming from Krishna. But more than just having, just like for example, if someone gives you a painting, it's nice, you appreciate getting that painting. But even more, if you meet the person who gave you the painting, that's more personal than just the energy itself. The painting is put on a easel, and on a frame, you can see it, and you can relate. But that relationship with the person is even more than that. So the relationship with Krishna is satisfying in all possible aspects. Whatever we're looking for in that personal relationship, we found in Krishna. We find that yogis are looking for Krishna, karmis are looking for Krishna, the jnanis, karmis means fruit of workers. They're trying to acquire things and enjoy this material nature. And the yogis, they want mystic powers. They want to get something mystical and do things that others can't do. Like the yogis, they can walk on the water, they can become lighter than the lightest, they can expand themselves into more than one feature, they can make themselves smaller than the smallest, disappear, they can acquire things, they can acquire things. In other words, whatever they want, they take it. There was a yogi that Prabhupada, someone in his family, had experienced. People would say, "Can you actually get things that you want?" He said, "Yes." He told him, "You desire something, say what you desire, go in the next room, and you'll see." So they said, "All right." I went in the next room, and they said, we want a pomegranate from Kabul. And there was a branch of a tree. You could see it was just broken off the tree. And there was the pomegranate from Kabul. So that's one of the mystic yoga powers. Some people are attracted by all these types of magic. It's not a very big accomplishment, however. And a person who's really serious about life, about achieving the perfection, will not be satisfied just making some gold appear, a little gold or some other types of things. But the relationship with Krishna goes as deep as we want it to go. If you want to know what Krishna knows, Krishna is willing to share that with you. If you want to be loved by Krishna, that's also possible. Or anything. Krishna is so kind. He shares, just like a father. Fathers very open, share his opulence. He's very wealthy, or he has all kinds of tremendous abilities. He's happy to share these with his children. He enjoys it because they won't use it against him. They won't try to abuse him or steal from him. Therefore, the relationship has to be based on love and trust. And that's what Krishna is talking about when he says that verse. All yogis, he always engages with me, pure loving service, without any desire for anything in return. And Krishna, he gives himself completely. In fact, he even says that he can't be conquered. He's unconquerable. But he can be conquered only by loving devotion. And that's called Bhakti Yoga. Thank you.
Very nice.
Bhakti Yoga is the ultimate yoga system. Text 16. There's no possibility of one becoming a yogi or Arjuna if one eats too much or eats too little, sleeps too much or does not sleep enough. Report. Regulation of diet and sleep is recommended herein for the yogis. Too much eating means eating more than is required to keep the body and soul together. There's no need for men to eat animals because there is an ample supply of grains, vegetables, fruits, and milk. Such simple foodstuff is considered to be in the mode of goodness, according to the Bhagavad Gita. Animal food is for those in the mode of ignorance. Therefore, those who indulge in animal food, drinking, smoking, eating food, which is not first offered to Krishna, will suffer sinful reactions because of eating only polluted things. Bhunjante te ta agham papaye pachanti atma karanat. Anyone who eats for sense pleasure or cooks for himself, not offering his food to Krishna, eats only sin. One who eats sin and eats more than his allotted to him cannot execute perfect yoga. It is best that one eat only the remnants of foodstuffs offered to Krishna. A person in Krishna consciousness does not eat anything which is not first offered to Krishna. Therefore, only the Krishna conscious person can attain perfection in yoga practice. Nor can one who artificially abstains from eating, manufacturing his own personal process of fasting, practice yoga. The Krishna conscious person observes fasting as it is recommended in the scriptures. He does not fast or eat more than is required, and he is thus competent in performing yoga's practice. One who eats more than required will dream very much while sleeping, and he must consequently sleep more than is required. One should not sleep more than 6 hours daily. One who sleeps more than 6 hours out of 24 hours is certainly influenced by the mode of ignorance. A person in the mode of ignorance is lazy and prone to sleep a great deal. Such a person cannot perform yoga. Text 17. He who is temperate in his habits of eating, sleeping, working, and recreation can mitigate all material pains by practicing the yoga system. Report. Extravagance in the matter of eating, sleeping, defending, and mating, which are demands of the body, can block advancement in the practice of yoga. As far as eating is concerned, it can be regulated only when one is practiced to take and accept prasadam, sanctified food. Lord Krishna is offered according to the Bhagavad Gita. Chapter 9, verse 26, vegetables, flowers, fruits, grains, and milk, etc. In this way, a person in the Krishna consciousness becomes automatically trained not to accept food not meant for human consumption, or which is not in the category of goodness. As far as sleeping is concerned, a Krishna conscious person is always alert in the discharge of his duties in Krishna consciousness, and therefore unnecessary time spent sleeping is considered a great loss. A Krishna conscious person cannot bear to pass a minute of his life without being engaged in the service of the Lord. Therefore, his sleeping is kept to a minimum. His ideal in this respect is Srila Rupa Goswami, who is always engaged in the service of Krishna, who cannot sleep more than 2 hours a day, and sometimes not even that. Thakur Haridas would not even accept prasadam nor even sleep for a moment without finishing his daily routine of chanting with all his beads 300,000 names. As far as work is concerned, a Krishna conscious person does not do anything which is not connected with Krishna interests. And thus his work is always regulated and is untainted by sense gratification. Since there is no question of sense gratification, there is no material leisure for a person in Krishna consciousness. Because he is regulated in all of his work, speech, sleep, wakefulness, and all other bodily activities, there is no material misery for him. Hare Krishna. So we're trying to keep these weeds of material sense gratification from growing. This is like Bhakti Yoga is like keeping a big garden. We're trying to allow the flowers of Bhakti Yoga to flourish and bloom by practicing devotional service. But whenever we engage in our material senses, we begin watering the material senses, those weeds begin to grow, start choking out the flowers of bhakti, choking out our precious garden. Even the smallest thing, one that wants to be Krishna conscious cannot be practicing Krishna consciousness and still be watching mundane things like Lord of the Rings or Star Wars. These mundane movies. Cannot really be watching, TV unless it's Krishna conscious TV, unless it's Krishna conscious movies. Because when you engage in anything other than that, you're watering the weeds. And when the weeds are being watered, your bhakti is being strangled and not growing properly. So each and every day when we wake up, we got to be pulling these weeds, realizing that we're not here to water them. We need to pull them up and practice devotional service. When we come in from Mangal Arati, sing and dance before the Lord, we're watering the flowers of bhakti. When we're engaging our senses and smelling the flowers that's offered to the Lord, smelling the incense that's offered to the Lord, hearing the kirtan, hearing the Srimad Bhagavatam, hearing the Bhagavad Gita, hearing the words of the spiritual master, tasting the prasadam, feeling the prasadam. We're engaging all of our senses and watering all these flowers of bhakti. And we're pulling up the weeds of our material senses every time we do this. We can't have both. You can try. You're going to go through a lot of suffering if you try to do both. You're not going to make very much advancement if you try to do both. Try to have material engagement along with bhakti. You're going to love one but hate the other. It's very, very difficult, and one cannot achieve Krishna consciousness by trying to take a middle path. One has to be fully absorbed in Krishna consciousness. That's why we gotta, come before Krishna every day and beg him. Oh, please, Krishna, please let me desire you more than all these material desires. Because in the essence, Krishna has given us a body to enjoy these material pleasures. It's encoded in our DNA to enjoy these material pleasures because he's trying to fulfill our desires. This is the body that we've been rewarded with. So it takes surrendering to Krishna and begging Krishna for our desires to desire him greater than these material desires to advance in Krishna consciousness. Employing our hearing in Krishna consciousness is one of the most important things. The Maha Mantra. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Employing our hearing in this is so purifying. When we're chanting the Maha Mantra, we should just be focused and aware of the sound alone. Whatever thoughts are running through our mind, just let them pass and just bring our focus and awareness to the mantra alone. Don't follow the thoughts. Just focus on the mantra. When we're doing our 16 rounds, this is the process. Because our mind is going to try to distract us all the time when we're trying to do our Maha Mantra, our daily 16 rounds. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama. I want to watch for breakfast today. Oh, there's a thought. You got to recognize that. You got to stop yourself and bring yourself back to the mantra. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. I don't know what the weather is going to be like. Oh, that's another thought. You got to stop yourself and bring yourself back to the mantra. You got to do this over and over and over again. This is a training of the mind. Training to put your awareness and have the mind situated in the mantra alone. With sincere effort, your mind can become situated in the mantra. Your awareness can become situated in the mantra. And that's when the nectar begins to rise. Because I've talked about in previous lectures that in Bhakti Yoga, for the beginners, Bhakti Yoga can be very bitter at first. It's the opposite of the material world, because the material world, you get the little bit of dose of happiness up front, but it quickly fades away. You continually have to chase it. You catch a little bit of happiness and poof, it's gone. You have to do something else to catch more happiness. Bhakti Yoga is the complete opposite. Because we're so used to being engaged in our material senses, used to that little bit of happiness up front. We're having to learn to employ our spiritual senses for the pleasure of Krishna. With determination and patience, getting your 16 rounds in every day, as I discussed, having your focus in on the mantra alone and learning to not follow these thoughts that come up, just knowing that they're there, but bring yourself back to the mantra over and over. One can make progress and the nectar begins to rise and things start becoming oh so sweet. Chanting your 16 rounds becomes oh so sweet. During your service throughout the day, because the 16 rounds in the morning, that's just the beginning. That's just the beginning of our chanting. We take this mantra with us throughout the day in our service. When we're doing dishes, when we're sweeping the floor. Whatever we're doing, we're chanting the mantra. And whenever these thoughts arise, oh man, I wish I was doing something else. Oh, there's a thought. Hare Krishna, 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 Hare Hare. It's a training of the mind to be situated in the mantra alone. Because when we're situated in the mantra alone, we're situated in Krishna alone. We have taken shelter in Krishna. So the more that we give our awareness and our mind to Krishna, the more that he gives himself to us. So it doesn't matter what you're doing, which once was mundane tasks that once disturbed you, you know, oh my gosh, look how many dishes I got to clean today. Oh, does this ever end? No, you got the Maha Mantra on your side. It becomes a very blissful activity as you're washing dishes. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. As you clean the floor, clean the windows, whatever service you're entailed, you know, that you're being plunged into in Krishna service becomes very blissful. Because you're not being ruled by your material senses anymore. You're not being ruled by your material thoughts anymore. You've taken shelter in the Maha Mantra. You've taken shelter in Krishna. And that's where the real nectar is. I can't stress that enough. It looks like that's our time for today, unless anyone has any questions or comments. Bhagavad Gita ki jai!